Hey all. Yeah, so Lucy mentioned I'm Kevin. I graduated, I guess I went to Bentley twice, undergrad 2012, and then I got my MBA, finished in 2014. Um, so great experience. I guess I can give you like the 30,000 foot overview of kind of how I've maneuvered from then till now. I'll give like a brief like PowerPoint overview of my role and my department's role and kind of different departments within the MBA as a whole. And then, yeah, as Lucy mentioned, happy to answer any all questions related to Bentley, MBA, anything in between. So yeah, I'm originally from Pennsylvania, Hershey actually, the home of the milk chocolate bar. I went to Bentley, like I said, 2008 to 12. I actually played basketball there as well. So basketball is certainly a passion for me. And I studied marketing undergrad, double minored in sociology and management. It seems like you guys are all grad students. Not sure how many undergrads are there, but had a great experience. Really loved my time at Bentley enough, I guess, to stay on for another year or two to get my MBA. And that is when I kept studying marketing, dual concentration in management. Actually, probably about when I met Lucy, took me about 4 or 5 years at Bentley to really start engaging with career services. So it looked like you guys are definitely ahead of me in terms of in that realm. So definitely encourage you to keep that up. They know a lot of, tricks of the trade, resume building, alumni out there that are doing what you may be interested in doing. Yeah, great experience in grad school. In my undergrad, I interned at the Hershey Company, where I'm from, for 2 summers. I worked with that was kind of my first foray into sports. Kind of, I worked with a small kind of incubator within the company, pushing this like chocolate milk, pure chocolate milk for athletes, like a muscle milk but better. And while after I graduated, I started working at Dunkin' Donuts, their corporate office in Canton, which actually I got at the Bentley Career Fair. So kudos to Lucy and team there. I worked in a retail merchandising capacity, kind of providing offerings for the franchisees, whether it be the t-shirts, the mugs, real exciting stuff. It was there that was kind of my first time away from the game. So, and honestly, and like I said earlier, it took me a while to get to career services. Like, I didn't really think too much about after Bentley until I kind of got there. So, kind of figured it out as I go, which I definitely don't recommend. But I got pretty fortunate again to go to the career fair, get that opportunity with Dunkin' Donuts, and lucky for me, it was basically share a parking lot with Adidas and Reebok, which after a few months at Dunkin', I can say nothing but good things about that company if that's of interest to anybody. I mean, great corporate culture, great work-life balance. I mean, it's a fun brand. For me personally, I just wanted to get back involved with basketball. So I started kind of networking next door over at Adidas and Reebok, thinking, hey, if I could get in there and work in sneakers or basketball or fitness or something like that, that'd be great. While I was networking, met this guy named by the name of Justin Kittredge, who was the head of their basketball footwear for Reebok at the time, but he and his wife actually ran a nonprofit essentially out of their garage, super small, outside of Boston in Rwanda, using the game to work with kids. If you know anything about the history of genocide in Rwanda, bring together communities, provide safe places for kids to play, adults to play, also teach health lessons and etc. So I applied for that. I was fortunate enough to get picked, one of two people to get picked for that. And next thing you know, I stopped my night classes at Bentley. I stopped my internship at Duncan, corporation, and kind of packed up and left for a year to the middle of nowhere in rural Rwanda. So, yeah, that was, I guess, my first kind of pivot back into basketball, which was great. I mean, amazing experience. Like I said, I was one of two people, so really got to just run the show over there, and was really a great experience and something I can't advocate for enough for undergrads, grads. Just kind of step out of the comfort zone for a bit, and actually something I'm always thinking about doing again. And I'm hoping actually to go back in hopefully December, depending on how taxes and if I'm able to work remotely for a bit. Ideally, if it was up to me, I'd go back for like 3 or 4 months. I think if work had anything to say about it, they wouldn't let me go at all. But trying to find the middle ground there. And after I finished that, I came back to Bentley. I had one semester left to finish my MBA, and yeah, then it was then that I was kind of just Uber driving, worked at a sneaker store, worked at a restaurant, kind of making ends meet. And fortunate for me, while I was in Rwanda, I was able to work like the Basketball Without Borders, which is a program the NBA does in all over the world, but in South Africa. So I was able to work at NBA camp with obviously a bunch of NBA employees, met some good people there through the board of directors with this nonprofit, had a bunch of people that had NBA involvement. So really just tried any angle I could to meet as many people in the basketball world professionally as I could. And from there, I just basically I wanted to move to New York and I wanted to work for the NBA, and kind of just check the career site every day, applying to every job, annoying probably way too many people, way too often to get me in there. And I was fortunate enough to get a internship, I guess a glorified internship, to be like a 10-month project employee is what they call it. Again, like a glorified intern. So my first year at the NBA was back in 2015. I've been within this global partnerships group, which I'll take you through in a bit. My first year was within retail partnerships. I was basically a buyer for our Fifth Avenue NBA store. If anybody has ever been to New York and visited there, was buying non-apparel, so keychains, socks, really exciting stuff. But it was a great foot in the door. Once I was inside, I was able to network with as many people as I could, and was fortunate enough from that opportunity to get a full-time offer within the same department, just a different team. So I worked for the next 3 years in business development, which is, different companies call it different things, essentially sales, sponsorship, partnerships, whatever you want to call it. Trying to bring in revenue for the league, bringing companies to be the official XYZ, whether it be Kia, the official auto, or State Farm, the official insurance, or Hennessy is our official spirit, or whatever. So within business development, I was specific to international, which we have 14 offices across the globe. 2 of them are in New York and New Jersey. And I was basically, I would describe it as like an air traffic controller, if you will, we have salespeople on the ground across our 12 international offices. And I was on a 3 to 4 person team, essentially just trying to make their job easier. So our guy in India, he's running around crazy, because there's 1.2 or 4 billion people there, or whatever it is, and there's one salesperson. So, whether that's sharing best practices, or if he's talking to a company, we have a relationship in another part of the world, sharing that insight, or if he needs help building out a deck, really anything start to finish that we may be able to do to make his job easier. That's what we did. And specifically, I worked with India, Africa, and China during that time. And then about, I don't know, this whole last 8 months is kind of a blur, but about a year and a half ago, I transitioned. I stayed within business development, but transitioned back into retail. So now I work on a 2-person team, my boss and I, responsible for selling any official marketing partners specific to retail. So Foot Locker was our partner for 25 years. If you guys used to watch like All-Star games and stuff, they used to sponsor the 3-point contest, dunk contest. They left about a year ago. So we're trying to fill that void. So think of anywhere you go buy your sneakers. You know, the NFL has a big deal with Lowe's starting last season. If you've seen any of those commercials while you're watching NFL Football Sunday. So if we could get Home Depot, for example, as our official home improvement, things like that. So any retailer we can call upon and try to preach, you know, the gospel that is the NBA, and hopefully they give us millions of dollars to market to our consumer. Our IP is pretty strong. You know, that NBA logo man is a thing that a lot of brands would like to, you know, put their brand next to, because we have a great following on social media. We have like 50 million Instagram followers. Our social media following is by far more than any other league, which a lot of brands see value with. We actually have more followers alone as and all those other leagues combined, you know, NFL, NHL, MLB, MLS, etc. Our consumers, younger, you know, the millennial, the Gen Z, which again is usually pretty appealing to these brands. But also at the end of the day, nobody's calling our phones to say, here's a check for millions of dollars, do what you want with it. I mean, it's still a sales role. We still have to do outreach. I've reached out to probably 10 different companies in the last 2 weeks, none of which have responded, which is great. So yeah, it's your typical sales role in that sense that we're prospecting, we're doing research, I'm sending cold emails. Ideally have some sort of contact inside, but usually just a cold email that probably nobody's going to respond to. So that's in a nutshell, I guess, from Bentley to where I'm at now. And Lucy, anything else to touch on before I can dive into this PowerPoint? Are there any questions, generally speaking, before I?
Yeah, I think you already mentioned it, but the different basically stages of you know, I remember that you started as a contract intern, right?
Right.
So I think one of the things that we always tell our students is, like, if you're passionate about something, start somewhere, put your foot in the door. And then you prove yourself and you excel. So, which is what happened to you. So maybe a little bit about how you got into where you are today, because you did network, you made connections and whatnot, right? So a little bit about that, if you could go back. Yeah.
So as I said earlier, like once I graduated from Bentley MBA December of 2014, and I was Uber driving. I worked at a sneaker store in Cambridge. I was, you know, doing whatever as I applied for jobs, and through some connections. For example, a friend of mine at Bentley, his sister worked at the NBA. Actually, 2 friends of mine at Bentley, they had contacts at the NBA, so utilized that. People I'd met through living in Rwanda or working in South Africa with the NBA, I utilized those. Through the nonprofit, the board, there was like a bunch of kids I worked with in Boston. One of their parents worked with the Celtics, so I was just trying to use like any angle and every angle I could, respectfully speaking, of course. You know, I think when you're leveraging those networks, you need to be adamant and kind of push the envelope, because I always think, you know, you need to at least send a follow-up after an email if nobody responds. I think a lot of times it just gets kind of lost in the shuffle. So it warrants at least one follow-up like a week later. But yeah, I was lucky to get, I was 25, just graduated with an MBA, and I felt fortunate to get a internship. It wasn't much money. I think I was making like $20 an hour, $22 an hour, like something like that in Manhattan. As you can imagine, doesn't go far, but again, it was an opportunity to get my foot in the door, rub shoulders with people, you know, meet people at the water cooler, et cetera. And basically a 10-month, you know, trial run to, you know, prove my worth. And I actually was unemployed technically for 2 months after that while they were going over some like structural changes internally. But I had interviewed for enough positions and was fortunate enough to get a job and be hired back a month or two later. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was a smooth ride, but you know, it's just the way it is. I think it's sports and entertainment, super competitive, and nobody in my family really works in business or sports, you know, as it is. So it's a lot of teachers and nurses and stuff like that. So I didn't have any connections really going into it. So any connection I made was self-made, and I leveraged those. I would say a lot of people I work with have a mom, a dad, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a neighbor, this or that. Especially in the New York area, there's a lot of people from around here that have some sort of connection, but that wasn't me. But you know, and not to talk down on that. I mean, you know, if you have a parent working in an industry, you have, you know, around the dinner table, I'm sure you're learning things as you're growing up. So yeah, that's kind of my thing. It was a grind. It still is. I mean, I've been there 5.5 years, and still trying to raise the corporate ladder. It's pretty crowded, especially at this like middle management to upper management level. And then there's a bunch of people kind of at my level that have to kind of fight, or you know, some people last a year or two and then try to leave, and either for more money or more responsibility or whatever. And we'll see. So I've been there almost 5.5, 6 years now, and yeah, it's going well. I mean, it's a great company. Adam Silver obviously gets all the accolades, as he should. You know, it's a good corporate culture. I mean, it's every meeting somehow involves basketball somehow, some way, which is for me, I really enjoy. Now on the other side of the coin of that, sometimes it's a little bit all consuming. Like I'm a huge basketball fan, and I'm a Sixers fan, as you can probably see, but you know, after they got eliminated, honestly, I didn't watch too much basketball, because if it's a Friday night, I kind of want to relax and not, you know, because you just innately are watching for, all right, who's rotational signage, what commercials are on, you know, how's this brand activating? So it's kind of hard to turn off sometimes, but again, it's not really a complaint. It just is what it is. I'm fortunate to be able to work in the game and be around it. How's that answer, Lucy? All right. Any others before I kind of dive into? I'll dive into, give you guys like an overview of our department and just talk about a few other departments at the league, because I'm sure we have a whole array of finance, accounting, marketing, whatever that may be. Cool. All right. How do I share my screen here? Do you need to make me the presenter, or, oh, here we go, share screen. Oh. Can you enable me, Lucy?
I did it. I think you should be able to present now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, any questions that pop up if I'm talking about something on a slide? I mean, it's just I'll blaze through this, but please feel free to interrupt. I'm pretty informal, as you can tell. So let me see here. All right, here we go. All right, can everybody see this? Cool. Whoops. All right, so global partnerships, as I mentioned earlier, is my department, which is a part of a much broader organization. And when I talk about being in business development and sales, we obviously represent the MBA, but we also have this whole portfolio of assets. So WMBA, which just finished they called it the Wubble with a W, not the bubble, down in Bradenton, Florida at the IMG Academy. We have the G League, which is our minor league system, which has seen a lot of growth in the last few years. And actually, about this time last year, they announced that they're going to start a separate path for high school players that want to forego college and start their professional career. If you guys follow the game, you probably saw a lot of higher level players were going to Australia or China or Spain or some bigger leagues in Europe. So actually, since the genesis of the league, players were always able to leave high school and go to the G League, but it's just something that we didn't really ever promote for many reasons. But there's, as you can imagine, a lot of politics behind that with the NCAA and just the way things have been. So there's now a separate path and a separate team created for these higher level players that actually I think it's exciting because just with the mess that is any sports right now, like, college basketball is delayed or who knows if it'll happen. It's just a nice outlet for these players to, if they're only going to be on campus for a few months, they're able to kind of start their professional careers sooner rather than later. The one next to that is the NBA 2K League, which we were the first sports league ever to create a separate video game league. And last but not least is USA Basketball. So operationally, they're their own kind of entity out of Colorado, but we are their marketing arm. So we bring in any business deals for them. A lot of the times when you think about the NBA, it's obviously one of the most global leagues. I would say the most global, definitely US league. Our games are shown in 215 countries. Exciting stuff for us. We finally had a game broadcast in China. They broadcasted game 6 of the finals. That was at Sunday night, which, if you guys follow any kind of geopolitical issues, around this time last year, I want to say it was November, the owner of the Rockets, Daryl Morey, tweeted out what turned out to be a pretty pricey 5-word tweet: "I stand with Hong Kong," and which, again, not to get into politics, but in China they pulled our game, which is a pretty big market for us. I mean, we have more people watch games at 5 a.m. there than they do here, just because of pure scale. Over 380 events in about 140 cities across the world each year, and this is a FIBA stat, but globally 450 million people play the game across the world. And so those dots there are our different offices. New York and New Jersey. Essentially, New York is most of everybody here in the States, but New Jersey is a lot of our media and content hub. And Canada is run out of Toronto. Latin America is run out of Mexico City and Rio. Europe is run out of mainly out of London, but a smaller satellite office out of Madrid. Africa is out of Johannesburg. India is out of Mumbai. Greater China is Shanghai, Beijing, and Taipei. And then NBA Asia, which encompasses Australia, Southeast Asia, etc., is Hong Kong and Manila. So again, my previous job before this was supporting all of these offices across the world. So it's a pretty big operation. I want to say it's around 1,200 employees globally. Again, I'm kind of making like guessing here, but about 800 out of New York, New Jersey. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible to see just the breadth of things we do on a daily basis that many of the consumers, here in the States don't often see. So here is our league calendar. And again, this is on a normal year, which this is anything but you can just kind of see, I went through those different properties earlier, just the amount of things happening in every month all the time. Ideally, if we bring in a partner, they activate across all of these platforms, if not all, most. But some do have the opportunity to just specifically partner with one league. So, for example, that 2K league, like their draft there in the middle in February is presented by Panera Bread as their like QSR partner, where the NBA is Taco Bell. So there's definitely a way to kind of splice and dice, depending on how much a brand is willing to spend. As you can imagine, working with the 2K league is significantly cheaper than working with the NBA. But it's always our hope to, some of our bigger partners like State Farm, AT&T, et cetera, have presence across all of these brands. So yeah, again, like I said, internationally, it's always impressive to see the breadth of things going on, and kind of same with the different leagues. So yeah, exciting stuff all year round. Here's a kind of a general look at our different departments. This makes global partnerships looks like it's the most important, but I would argue maybe, but we're definitely like the revenue driving, us and media are the revenue driving arms of the league, and the outward facing marketing arms of the league. But I mentioned all those leagues like W, G League, 2K League. We have a PR department and communications. Operations was very influential in the restart in the bubble, kind of figuring out the logistics, how to keep the players safe, how to run these games. Obviously, like everywhere else, has a finance. We have marketing, legal, events. So probably a lot of these are similar to most companies in terms of legal, events, finance, communications, etc. And then specifically to us, player marketing. So working with them to either they do a lot around like if I'm talking to a brand that wants to spend X amount of dollars and is looking for this kind of either age range of player or notoriety or geography of the country, so hey, I need a guy from the Pacers that's going to cost this much, that is decently well known, but they're only willing to pay this. Who can I get? Social responsibility and player programs might be unique to us, so they do a lot. Obviously, NBA Cares. We finally actually launched this year with all the social injustice. We launched our first ever foundation, so that's going to focus all around social justice. Player programs, they do a ton around rookie transition programs. So if you're just drafted into the league, here's a way to manage your finances. Here's how, here's where you should move. Here's how you should live, etc. Things like that. So before I move on, any general questions on any of these departments or anything I didn't touch? Because now I'm going to dive into just specific to my department and global partnerships. All right, cool. And again, any questions that pop up on any slides, feel free to just interrupt me. So within my department, here's all the subgroups. New business, partnership development, and media. That was my old team when I worked within international. There's partner management, and I'll go through each of these has a slide that I'll talk specifically to. Merchandise partnerships, both apparel and non-apparel, retail partnerships, which is where I currently reside, international merchandise and branded attractions, fantasy sports and gaming, which kind of MGM, FanDuel is our our officials daily betting site, things like that. NBA 2K League is actually housed under our department, on-court and brand partnerships, which manages everything to do with the physical jersey, where to put the patches, where to, working with Nike and anything going on the court. They know all these regulations of how, far a logo has to be from the sideline, or how big a logo can be on the center court, like things that people probably don't think about, that is their whole job. And then partner services, which is essentially our hospitality group. So diving in, a real quick overview of some of our partners. I think this is probably most of them, but if I was on some sales pitch, I'd say, we work with all these blue chip brands, which honestly, most of them are pretty big players in their space. We just got Louis Vuitton this year, which is a pretty nice brand, and Moet Hennessy. Microsoft is obviously a leader. Nike's obviously a leader. But then you see somebody like Kia or Tissot, which Kia is no Mercedes or BMW, but they've been a league partner for 10 plus years now, and have seen a ton of growth in terms of their brand recognition, and they've done a great job utilizing their players. They've had LeBron in the basket pass, they've had Shaq. Same with Tissot, it's no Rolex, like you'll see it maybe a higher end golf or F1 racing or something like that, but they've been a partner now for 5-6 years and have done a great job lifting their brand with us. They are the official timekeeper, but their branding is on every shot clock across any arena. So they're able to tell a lot of cool stories with that. Any kind of buzzer beater in the last 30 seconds of a game, they'll get like the Tissot buzzer beater going on social media and things like that. So all of these brands have different reasons why they wanted to partner with us, and we do different stuff, whether it's in-person activations, media. Auto Trader literally just wants a commercial spot or two and rotational signage. They don't really do anything else, but versus AT&T, which is a massive partner of ours and activates across all of our properties. So retail partnerships, that's my team right now. I'm specific, my boss and I, to finding new business and new partners we can work with. So can Dick's do something bigger with the WNBA, because female empowerment and women's product is was going to be a huge push from this year, but due to coronavirus, they pushed that back to next year. For example, the Lakers just won the championship, so I have colleagues that are making sure that that product is being distributed to where it needs to go, mainly California, but I have one of my colleagues manages our relationship with Target, another manages our relationship with Walmart. Somebody else manages our relationship with Fanatics. If you see there on the right, NBA Store.com and NBA Store, our flagship, is run by Fanatics, who is this company out of Philadelphia who runs basically the whole world for apparel. They do NFLshop.com. They manage a lot of colleges' apparel. They do NHLshop.com, MLBshop.com, all that stuff. So they're a pretty big behemoth. Another colleague manages that relationship. And yeah, it's really just how do we get more of our product into better places and that people want to buy it. Business development, broadly, that's what I do, but I'm specific to retail, where the team I left is basically the whole other rest of the universe. So that slide 2 or 3 slides ago where you saw all of our partners, they have official designations. So Moet Hennessy is our official spirit. So we couldn't go out and do a deal with Bacardi because they pay us a ton of money for that exclusivity. But anywhere we don't have a partner, we can go out and find, we're always trying to get more money, obviously. So we try to go out and find just open holes and, brands that want to story tell with us, and obviously we hope to work with these big brands that obviously they pay us a ton of money, but hopefully they do their own part in elevating our brand and our, you know, tune-in messaging or whatever that may be to a whole new consumer. So that's business development. Partnership development is who we work with to develop these pitches. So if I'm going to pitch a new company and they're kind of our in-house creative, I guess. If we need to brainstorm some ideas, hey, here's their target consumer, here's their platform, here's their new marketing push, like how does that align with either our league broadly or specific events we have? You know, do we want to work more on social? Do we think it makes sense for them to have more just signage in arena, etc. So they'll help us ideate, and they're also, we have like a graphic designer who will help make these decks and visuals look pretty so we can wow them in the presentation. Next up, we have media partnerships. So again, in the sales process, which is what I work on, we'll work with obviously partnership development to help make that deck and ideate these ideas, but media partnerships manages, just like I have a coworker managing our relationship with Target and Walmart, they will have, we have people that manage our relationship with Facebook or Snapchat or Turner, which is TNT, or ESPN, ABC. So if I'm talking to a brand, I mean, Mountain Dew is our official soft drink that wants to do, you know, sponsor a studio show or some sort of social campaign, as you see below. So NBA, they were the sponsor of, AT&T, of like the 3-point competition. So that'd be paid social on our Instagram. If we want to do some sort of, I don't know, there's a Dunkin' Donuts half a block away from my apartment. So just using them for example, if they want to be like the dunk of the game, and that would be some like in-game enhancement that will flash across the screen on TNT while you're watching a game, you know, and somebody has a nice dunk, that's the kind of things that will work with them to help coordinate with those media partners. Once hopefully we bring in a deal, we pass it on then to our partner management. I think a lot of organizations with or without sports have these kind of account manager that manages the day-to-day relationship with AT&T, for example. So how can we, yeah, this is all AT&T here. So they were a huge partner at All-Star Game, had that on-court branding, sponsored Media Day, the dunk contests, a few activations at the, you know, All-Star Game this year in Chicago. So they basically manage, they have, AT&T will have these different allocations of their budget. So maybe it's 20% towards, you know, in-person activations, 40% towards media. So they're probably sponsoring some show, like a show on ESPN or you know, an NBA pregame show on Turner, etc. So partner management manages that, and then activation is also under this umbrella. So at All-Star, for example, you know, AT&T has this branded space, which this year was in Chicago within the United Center. Like, what exactly does that build out look like? We work with them, partner management will work with them to make sure everything is clean there. Fantasy and gaming. So you can see there, MGM is our official, what are they? Betting partner. I know there's a lot of sensitivities over kind of the word gambling or things like that. FanDuel is also a huge partner of ours. And then we have these like pick'em kind of games. For example, you know, March Madness, filling out a bracket is this huge phenomenon. So we've been trying to grow our presence there and make our bracket a bigger deal. As you can probably tell, probably a huge way to go in that realm, but kind of just getting more people engaged through maybe a second screen. Maybe somebody has an iPhone or an iPad up and they're playing a fantasy game as they're watching live. Anything we can do to really engage our fan and have them more involved, because as I'm sure you can tell, research shows the more engaged they are across multiple platforms, the bigger fans they'll be, thus the more merchandise they'll buy or tickets they'll buy to go to games, or they'll talk about it to their friends more. It's just all good stuff for us. Merchandising partnerships is a team that handles all of our licensees. So actually those slides there on the top right, that guy Justin, who he and his wife ran the nonprofit in Rwanda, he left Reebok to start this like customized footwear slide company. So you could get anything from like your face on that slide to they pay us money to utilize our IP, so that you could also get a Miami Heat engraved across the slides. And we have tons of partners that make literally everything you could think of. There's an image of the 2K video game, which is a huge seller for us. Little plush toys, baby outfits, socks, keychains, literally anything and everything you can think of. We probably, bow ties, we probably have a licensee that does it. So trying to just find what people want and find a company that does it, and then get them to pay us money to utilize our IP. We have an international merchandising and brand attractions team. So just as that previous slide manages domestic, this team will manage those licensees internationally. We actually have NBA stores all over the world. We have one in Madrid, we have one in Milan, we have one in Rio, Mexico City, Mumbai. We have a few in China. That store on the top right was a new one in China. I forget if that was Shanghai. I think it was Shanghai that opened up. So again, like broadening the scope of where our products can be found internationally. And they coordinate kind of like what I did with a business development function. They coordinate with counterparts in all of our regional offices from a merchandising perspective. On-court and brand partnerships. So this is a team about, I think it's about probably 6 people, that they manage everything there is to know about the jersey. So what does their home jersey look like? What does their away jersey look like? That Utah jersey you see there is every year. We started with our new Nike partnership a few years back. They have this like city edition. So Boston's, I know they had like a shamrock looking thing, or Utah is that trying to promote. I think Utah is actually interesting because people think of Utah as this like cold ski state, but they have a ton of national parks and deserts and things like that. So that was kind of in line with pushing that messaging. Obviously with Kobe Bryant's passing in January, this team managed, all right, what does that patch look like? Where does it go? So everything to do with the jersey, everything to do with the court, everything to do with the basket, very minute details that go unnoticed, honestly, to me a lot of times, that they are very much in the weeds of, what does the ref jersey look like, et cetera. So a very important job that doesn't get probably enough credit as it deserves. 2K League is a league created between the NBA and Take-Two, which is the developers of NBA 2K, which just starting about a year or two actually started selling more copies than Madden. As I believe, I'm not sure if it's overtaken FIFA yet, but as like the most sold sports video game. So a huge revenue driver for us, and just a great way for more people to know about our game. I started slinging a few of these to my brother-in-law who has a system, and he doesn't really know much about basketball, but ever since I gave him that game, he always knows a few more players and things like that. So again, any way we can really interact with a fan or a consumer, they don't necessarily have to be watching our games. If they're playing NBA 2K, that's still money to us, and we're still able to promote to those people. So I believe this was they just finished season 3, I want to say. But that's their studio. It's a cool concept. I think with this esports thing, like, I think everybody's still trying to figure out what it means and what value it has and how it's going to grow. I certainly have no idea, but it's certainly this like new cool industry, and I think things that some brands are diving all in. I think some brands are still trying to figure out, again, what value it serves and how they interact with their consumer. I think this is the last one. Partner services is essentially like our hospitality team. So if we sell in a new partner, a certain amount of their spend to us is going to be towards hospitality. So whether that's just straight up tickets that they get to All-Star or finals or playoffs, which we manage, that's part of it, or hosting these, hospitality or meet and greet events with NBA legends at All-Star Weekend, or I don't know, Larry Bird or whoever to come in and speak to a group of AT&T executives, or things, anything you can imagine from a hospitality perspective. We work with them to coordinate. So, as you can see, our job in business development is very specific, as are a lot of other moving pieces within, the ecosystem. And that's just within my department. I think you saw that broader ecosystem earlier. So it's a pretty well-oiled machine. And that is kind of the end of the presentation. But yeah, I mean, it took me a while to figure out just what the hell everybody does that I work next to, because if I have a question, or if I need somebody to answer something specific to media, specific to the WNBA, like, that is a very specific person or two, and it takes a few years, like a year or two, honestly, to just figure out who those right people are, because your email can be bounced around to like 3 different people before you over a course of a week or 2 before you get to the person you need to speak to. So it's a well-oiled machine, with a lot of people doing very specific things, is, I guess, a way I could describe it. I know that was probably a lot to take in. Again, it took me a while to learn all that, so happy to answer any questions related to that or otherwise.
Kevin, I actually have a question. I'm sorry. You mentioned all these different, obviously, entities, and how does the hiring process work? Do each one of these different areas have their own hiring process? Does it generally come from the NBA itself? Where are the jobs? Are they even job postings, or do they go to select? I know I'm asking too many questions.
No.
Do they go to select schools, or how does the hiring process work?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, we did just announce internally, like a week or 2 ago, a hiring freeze. So I don't know the next time we're hiring anybody. And we actually did have layoffs back in like June or July, like 10%. So yeah, I doubt, like I said, it might be a bit until we hire anybody, but like, it's like any company. We have MBAcareers.com, I want to say it is. The jobs will be posted there. And if a department has a headcount, they will have a hiring manager. Each department has like an HR liaison that you'll work with. So it's anything from, I guess, I don't know, a warm lead, like, hey, this person from Bentley is interested. They seem like a good candidate, and if somebody on the inside, they could pass it along just like anywhere else. Or apply online. Yeah, in terms of internship programs, I mean, I think traditionally we've hired a lot of like Michigan, UMass, some of these places with like a known sports business program. But I mean, Bentley, it's me and one other person at the NBA now. There was previously like two other people, but you know, small mighty team. But yeah, it's any like kind of I said earlier, like just get in how you can. Don't annoy people, but definitely if you're interested here or anywhere in sports or entertainment or any job for that matter, it's probably going to be competitive. So just leverage networks and you know, make yourself known.
Hey, Kevin, thank you for the presentation. I was just wondering quickly if you could just expand upon that experience in Rwanda a little bit. Kind of sounded really interesting.
Yeah, totally.
You said you wanted to go back too, so yeah, I was just curious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I played basketball at Bentley, as did Jordan, represent. And I think for me, I never got to study abroad because of that time commitment or you know, live abroad or anything like that, which was I wouldn't say like I was seeking it out, but when you know the guy Justin was like, hey, I can either help you get in the door here at Reebok or in Canton, Massachusetts or Rwanda, like it seemed like a no-brainer. But yeah, I went over there for a little over 10 months, and I was only year 2 on the ground in Rwanda and year 4 of the program in general. So me and one other person each got $25,000 grant that basically, like, Justin and his wife Lindsay were very hands off and you know, very entrepreneurial in spirit and just like go figure it out. So since I was early on in the time, my predecessors just like got on the ground and figured it out, and you know, they built a court. And then my year there was a lot about like expanding that kind of footprint. So we had one court in this village in the east, basically on the border of Tanzania. And during my time there, I built a court from scratch, renovated, like I did a full renovation at a court, and then showed up at a court that was already built. So expanded the footprint from 1 to 4. I mean, day to day, worked with trained coaches to help, you know, teach at these different courts, and then also teach myself, coach practice, and then we try to hold events probably once a month or so to bring together kids from different courts to play each other. And you know, we had a tournament like Malaria May Madness or something, like malaria education, or tournaments around like sexual health or gender, you know, equality, stuff like that. And yeah, it was, I mean, I never would have thought I was going to end up there, but it's an incredible place. I mean, it's the amount of transformation it's had in the last 20, I guess now 25 years since the genocide of '94 is incredible. And actually basketball has developed there tremendously as well. When I was there, I was basically showing up to villages that never, I mean, they knew what basketball was probably, but they, you know, once we built a court, it was like teaching layups and how to pass the ball and things that are simple. But actually the NBA was supposed to this year, until everything hit the fan, they just built this brand new not the NBA, but in Rwanda, they built this brand new state-of-the-art arena in Kigali, which is the city that was actually going to host this Basketball Africa League, which is a collaborative thing between the NBA and FIBA, which is like FIFA, the international governing body. So unfortunately that didn't go off, but yeah, I mean, it was a great experience to, you know, get out of the comfort zone a bit, literally be responsible for everything that happens day to day. Met some really good contacts. Like I said earlier, it helped me get to the NBA, and our board of directors is a lot of people involved with the game. And then obviously, like, you know, it's always good to give back and Yeah, if it was up to me, I'd be out there December, January, February, but it sounds like tax reasons, like, I don't know. I'm going to use every ounce of my vacation though to hopefully get there for like a month, but yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I didn't really realize how many of these organizations, and I made friends out there that were, I don't know, developing like farming or developing, architecture or developing like every little niche like thing you can think of. There's probably a nonprofit doing something like that somewhere in the world. It just requires some, I guess, Google searching. So I definitely recommend those kind of programs if you can find them and if you're willing to, make the trip. I know Bentley is very international, so some of you on this call might even be from some different places outside the U.S. And yeah, it's just, I think, a great thing too on a resume to, it's a little out of the ordinary than the usual candidate. And one last thing is, like, I think for me, when I came back, I was frustrated a lot because the amount of interviews I was on that kind of skipped over that chunk and wanted to talk about like Dunkin' Donuts or the Hershey Company or things like that was frustrating. But I think it's just because some of those people, they don't really know how, it's not apples to apples for them. So they just wanted to kind of compare some experiences that were. But then eventually you'll talk to enough people that will find value in it and want to learn more and are super interested in it. And, then you can send follow-ups of like, hey, here's an article, or here's a picture, or here's this or that. And it really engages with them and I think helps you stand out.
Yeah, because I kind of was in the same situation as you. I just graduated from Bryant University, actually.
Huh?
And I played baseball there all 4 years. So
Nice.
never able to travel, do anything abroad. And it's definitely something I want to do. So I know, like you were saying, it's just a great experience, great perspective building, and you got all this responsibility, and you were able to develop a lot there. So definitely something that I want to do at some point for sure.
Yeah, no, I actually had a colleague who had since left the NBA, but he, I think, lived in Australia for a year, like teaching baseball. Or I know there's some programs in India that, like, with cricket having that like overarm motion, like try to convert people into baseball. Or, I mean, long story short, like there's always like a XYZ without borders, like Doctors Without Borders. Like, I mean, that seems to be like the general tagline of the nonprofit. But, yeah, honestly, if a few Google searches on, and you'll be surprised by how many people out there are doing something super unique. So definitely a good avenue to explore.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Hi, Kevin. I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said when you were working at Dunkin's, you made your connections with like Adidas or Reebok, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
How exactly did you go about that? Because like, did you like walk in and be like, "Hi, I'm Kevin," or whatever? Or I'm just wondering how you went about that, because that's a really good connection to make, especially when you're working at Dunkin's and then go to like Adidas or Reebok.
Yeah, that one's actually funny. So, I don't know, for me, being around the game of basketball, like playing pickup basketball, like 5-on-5 with, a group of people is just, I mean, it's a way I've met pretty much any new friend I've met in New York in the last 5 or 6 years. Same with business connections too. So, Dunkin' Donuts, they had this like outdoor rim in the parking lot that, they would play before work every now and then, and I'd play there. And then I'd heard that there was this guy like Reebok and Adidas. I don't know if I think they moved offices, but they had a court within their building. So I'd heard this guy, Justin, ran their, internal pickup run. And yeah, that's literally, I just reached out to the guy, like obviously under the guise of like, hey, I heard you guys play basketball. I'd love to join if you're looking for somebody. But it's like anything, it's just an opportunity to like rub shoulders, and as long as you're not an asshole on the court, usually people will generally like you. And yeah, it's kind of how it started. And then from there, like he ran local kids camps in Boston, so like I would help him out. Like once I found out kind of what he was doing, I basically did everything I could to help him out. And, one of the kids we coach, for example, his dad is the CMO of the Celtics. So like just through that, I was able to I still stay in touch with him every now and then. Like, hey, how's Aiden doing? Stuff like that. So it's kind of a unique way of networking, but but I would also recommend like I mean, if you can find like a friend of a friend or a connection somehow that like, if they can introduce you, just to ask for honestly 20, 30 minutes for a phone call, or, hey, can I grab coffee or lunch or anything that works with your schedule. Obviously, you can get face-to-face time. Who knows when the next time we can get face-to-face time with anybody, but that stuff's always super invaluable. Then from there, it's just finding ways to stay engaged. You know, it doesn't have to be every week. Obviously, that's pretty impossible. But like, I don't know, I think once or twice a year, hey, I saw, you know, if you know what they do generally at work, hey, I saw this press release that looks super cool. Like, congratulations. Like, not even asking for much, but just so if a year or two later, you know, Reebok is hiring, it's not like you're like only using them to get an opportunity. You're like actually wanting to engage in a conversation in between.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And I know Lucy wanted me to talk about like maybe other opportunities out there in the sports world. So like, you know, obviously there's leagues, there's the NBA, NHL, MLB, et cetera. They're all in New York, but there's like agencies out there that, I don't know, I'll just use Dunkin' Donuts again. Like, I don't know if they do their stuff in-house or they work probably through an agency that, hey, here's, you know, they'll trust a marketing agency with their marketing dollars to, here's who we're trying to target, here's when. And then that's definitely somebody that we call on, is all these different marketing agencies. So that's a unique way too to like, there you'll probably would manage like a specific, you know, manage AT&T or manage Dunkin' Donuts, and then their strategy as it relates to either sports or entertainment, or maybe they work with award shows. Those are interesting because you get a whole breadth of exposure. So I know a lot of my colleagues have come from that world. I mean, within, you know, Dunkin' Donuts, for example, I know there was a guy that managed like their Patriots relationship. So within these different brands, and there's people, there's obviously at the team level, whether that's Celtics, you know, Red Sox, etc. And then I would never overlook like minor league systems, you know, whether that be an internship or it's just a much smaller operation, but because of that, you have much wider opportunities. And, you know, all it is this, at least my world of sports, basketball, it's all super interconnected, as probably any industry is. So once you get enough people in your corner, you know, you can kind of work out from there. And kind of getting to that starting point of building that network is obviously difficult, but again, you just have to be creative with how you go about it.
Hi, Kevin.
You have a question, Alyssa?
I do, but Ahmed, if you wanted to go first, that's also okay.
No, you can go, Lisa.
Okay.
I can go next.
Okay. Hey, Kevin, thanks for taking the time today. So I'm someone who's trying to transition into the sports industry after a lot of years in different industries. So I've connected with a few people at Bentley just to kind of have informational meetings and whatnot. And the same theme is build your own brand and brand yourself. And that way, when you meet people, you can say, hey, here's the value I can bring. My only kind of concern is, given the current status with COVID and the limitations on hiring, the limitations on face-to-face, is there like, can you go too far with building your brand? You know, I don't want everyone to think it's data analysis or bust for Alyssa. You know, I want to work in sports. So I kind of want to leave the door open. Do you have any advice on that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know the answer, to tell you the truth, but I would say like, I think a lot of times when it's like finding the middle ground, and I'd err on the side of maybe being too specific than too broad. At least that's me personally. I don't know about you, Lucy, but like, I think a lot of times people are attracted to, you know, for me, I love basketball. Like if I can work my whole career in basketball, that's, you know, great. Like, but if I were just to go to, you know, before I got into the NBA, like to a contact or a friend of a friend or a blind outreach, like, hey, I really want to work in basketball. I'll do anything to do it, and I'll work any job to be there. Like, even if the person on the other end like is a fan of yours and likes your experience, etc., like it's really hard for them to do anything with that. You know, if it's like you mentioned data analytics, like, and you want to work in name a company like or industry or whatever, like at least that's either I know somebody working in data analytics in that specific avenue you want to work in, or if I see something similar to data analytics pop up as the job opportunity, then oh, Alyssa, like, you know, there's somebody that maybe could be a good fit for this. Because I think it's like giving ammo to whoever's helping you on the back end and making it a lot easier for them than instead of it being super broad and, you know, any opportunity might fit, but does any opportunity really fit? Like then at least like it's specific, you know, if it's a specific 2 avenues that you can pick, I think that's super helpful. And yeah, data analytics, it's out of my comfortability and in terms of what I do, but like I know it's important, and it's certainly been growing over the last few years. So now it seems like you got yeah, hopefully that helps. I don't know. Cool. Ahmed, did you have a question?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Kevin, for the inspirational journey. You know, during your presentation, I was asking myself one question: how that guy started up in the chocolate industry and he ended up in the sports industry. And there must have been 2 or 3 skills transferred from one industry to another. Yeah, beside networking and relations you have built, um, you were building also skills beside the motive and the passion you had. So what are those skills that you relied on during the interview processes, switching between different industries, Kevin? I asked it that question because I'm a pharmacist. I'm working in the pharmaceutical industry. However, I really love the sports marketing, and it's one of my passions. So your answer on that question will be a great asset to me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think for me, generally, like the internship helped me be a professional. Like I'm still trying to learn how to be a professional, which being at these bigger, I think companies help. I don't know. The way I see it is like, well, what I do now is sales, trying to find these. I mean, at the end of the day, there's only a few brands in each kind of category that even have, you know, a nationally visible brand or the budget to spend with us. But I don't know. I always kind of view like my experience at Hershey's as a global company with a global brand. Same with Dunkin', you know, and I think for me that helped me go to. I viewed it more as like going to another global brand versus, and obviously outside the industry, but I think, you know, a lot of Hershey's does a ton in sports marketing, and not to say I was working in that, but I was working with a sports specific product. It's like pure chocolate milk that is no longer around. But yeah, I would say just that like brand recognition for me, I think maybe helped. Again, I think my time in Rwanda probably helped more than anything because that was more apples to apples and something like that. But yeah, I always valued, I think, having bigger brands like Hershey's and Dunkin' or whatever, I think, on my resume. So at least somebody picking it up, you know, has heard of that company. Not to say that's the only way. I just think for me that maybe helped. And I don't know if there's tactfully like a specific skill or 2 that I learned there that I took over. I think, again, just being like a general professional, which is something I'm still working on. But yeah, I think hopefully that helped answer your question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, help a little bit, and I think that the answer behind this also that I feel your motive, your passion. You wanna from the beginning to be in that specific industry. I think that what made the difference, Kevin.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, Lucy spoke to it earlier. Like, I honestly, I didn't really give much thought to like career after Bentley until I kind of was like, oh crap, I need to figure this out. Which again, I don't recommend. But yeah, I mean, for me, there's always been, it just seems like a no-brainer to work in basketball because that's literally all I mean, that's the reason I went to Bentley. That's what I did in my free time. Now, it's, again, it's tough sometimes aligning your passion to your work, because I think if you're passionate about it, there's a lot of other people that are too. And again, I think sometimes for me, like, it's my passion, but sometimes it's a little bit overwhelming. Like, you know, there's, like, for example, when Kobe passed away, like, there was no, like, it was just like, you went to sleep. That was like the only time away from it. Like, you work, it was involved in that. Like, you just watched it, and then you went worked, and then you watched it, and it was just like this, like, it's just like this all-encompassing thing. But again, it's that's a minor complaint. I mean, overall, that's, I'm fortunate to have that as a problem. But yeah, I mean, definitely for me, if I can stay in basketball for as long as possible, whatever that next opportunity may be for me, either internally or externally, I'm not sure, but that's kind of my hope. I mean, it's just hard for me to fathom working in anything else. Even though I definitely can make more money doing literally probably anything else, but you know, at the end of the day, I think the work-life balance and quality of life is something that's important to me. And I think whether or not people want to admit it early on in their career, eventually they get to a place when they're, I don't know, 5, 7, 8, 10 years in. And I mean, I've personally had some friends that from Bentley that have grinded, and they get to kind of my age now, and it seems like they want to reset a little bit and maybe have more time to themselves, or more time to align, you know, their work with things that they're passionate about. But yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think for me, something my dad always told me, I think Lucy's had similar phrases. It's like, you just have to know what you want to do next. And, you know, I think, and then Ahmed, to your question, like, I think if you know, generally speaking, or listen to your question, like data analytics or whatever, like what you want to do next, like you can tell that story to what you did previously. You know, you can obviously emphasize a few different things that you did in your day-to-day in your last job or 2 jobs ago that helped lead you to this path. And yeah, I mean, I feel fortunate to work for a brand and a company that I think socially aligns with a lot of things I like, and the culture there is one that, you know, we take a stand for things that I think we should, and et cetera. So that's definitely important. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like it was all easy probably as I talk through it now, but you know, certainly had a quick unemployment spell in between internship and coming back, and you know, living in, I'm sure you can imagine, some pretty crappy apartments in New York, and you know, seeing friends and colleagues make X or have X quality of life in terms of some more tangential things that maybe I couldn't afford in terms of like neighborhood they live in or et cetera. But again, at the end of the day, that's just one part of a broader, you know, quality of life that you kind of have to pick and choose, especially early on in the career, which is what I'm learning. And now I just have to figure out what I'm doing next, I guess, like everybody else. And I still have no idea. Like I'm like, Lucy, like it's like 2020, like reflect on yourself and like, all right, what am I doing here? What do I want to be doing? So trust me, like I'm trying to figure it out myself, and I don't have the answer. So if anybody does, please tell me. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. First of all, we always tell people you have career services for life when you leave Bentley. And even if I'm not here anymore, there is definitely an institution that takes care of their alums. We always, at least I know that in my workshops, I always say, find your passion, right? We do a self assessment test in the very beginning, and I encourage you to start talking to people to, look at yourself deep down. Nobody should be pushing you into something that you don't want to do. However, finding your path is really yours. Nobody pushed Kevin into doing what he didn't want to do. However, he had to, I know his journey a little bit, however, he had to step back and live in those apartments to make his dream come true, to get into an area that he wanted to get. So I think you do what you need to do to get into what you want to do ultimately, that is going to make you run to work rather than say, oh my God, I have to go to work again. And it can be that industry, it can be that industry that you might have played sports like Brian for 4 years, and you might not play it anymore. However, you can stay in that industry and find a way to get yourself on the operations side of things, on the business development side of things, or whatever. In Ahmed's case, I mean, obviously your background of knowing a big pharma company is going to be humongous in your next step. So I think we all find our ways into a career that is going to make us happy. And unfortunately, it doesn't always come with money, right? If you do something else, if Kevin did something else, just like he said, he probably would make 3 times or 4 times what he's making today, because from everything that I'm hearing, sports does not come with, working in sports does not necessarily come with a lot of money unless you're playing it, right? So those are some of the things that we tell as career coaches, that we're here to help you with the resources to find your way as to what you want to do next. And that decision after grad school, in my opinion, is crucial. But you have a couple of years to make that decision. In certain cases, just 1 year, but that 1 year, you should make that very productive. So, right?
Yeah, one last thing I can suggest. Like, I know we had, I don't know how the future is going to look with this, but like a rotational program, incredibly, like, I think they got a few thousand applicants for like 10 spots. But I know like the Red Sox has a rotational program that's good, that I've had a few friends do, or like, and not specific to sports. Like, I think I wish I could have been involved with a rotational program now, whether that's in pharma or tech or analytics or whatever it is, because like, they're usually a year or 2. You get to rotate through like 3 or 4 departments, and then it's like, versus me, who I've had 3 jobs within the NBA, and I'm fortunate to be able to bounce around different teams. But like, if there's a program ready made for you to bounce around and then kind of like take a step back and see what one you like best, and it's also just an incredible way to network. I mean, you're working side to side with 3-4 different teams that, at least from my experience, like my colleagues who were in the rotational program, like they know literally it seems like every important person in every department because they've worked for them at some point. So those are definitely good ones to look into, and something I didn't personally know was out there specific to sports until I kind of got into it. So definitely, and again, super competitive to get into, but definitely an avenue to look into in any industry or any career you're looking to dive into.
Let's do maybe one final question, because we want to let Kevin get back to his job. Any other questions here?
I'll say, Kevin, congrats on your 1K bonus from Adam Silver.
Oh yeah. That wasn't meant to be, I don't think, shared externally, but it's always interesting being like sorry for Kai's talk. Adam Silver sent an email out to the company yesterday. We're getting like a few Fridays off in October or November, and $1,000 bonus. Now, we're not what they didn't announce is we're not getting any pay increases or bonuses otherwise, or really promotions, which I was hoping for this year. But, you know, hey, I mean, I think that's just him being the leader he is. And it is interesting, like when things like that get out to the general public, like when we had layoffs 3 months ago or so, like I survived, but I needed to send my parents a text like, hey, in case you see this on SportsCenter, you know, or it's just interesting being at a global visible company like this, like things like that get out to the public a lot. So, but thank you. I will definitely take that pre-tax $100,000 and, you know, buy some Christmas presents this year or something. And maybe get that promotion next year. But yeah, I mean, hopefully I was able to share some good insight. I think, again, it's not all glitz and glamour. It mostly isn't. But, you know, for me, I'm fortunate enough, it's fun enough, and it's around basketball. And I made my little Zoom background here, like my sneakers and jerseys. I sell, you know, retail partnerships. So, you know, it's always fun for me to talk to somebody else that likes sneakers, or hey, who's your favorite team, or stuff like that. So again, it's, yeah, I'm happy to be where I'm at, and, you know, use career services. Lucy's great. Took me way too long to get there, but I got there. And yeah.
Kevin, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. We'll keep in touch.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'll I can send you this PowerPoint if maybe, I know there's a lot of words and details if maybe wants to look through it. Cool.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for participating. If you have additional questions for Kevin, just send them to me and I will forward them. And we'll go from there. Okay. Thanks a lot.